love, betrayal and arsenic all mix in this gripping tale of Victorian-era Glasgow. Join me as we delve into the life and trial of Madeleine Smith, the young socialite who captivated and shocked the world back in 1857. Hi folks, I'm Johnny and welcome to The Oddest. It's been a wee while since we've delved into a good true crime case, so I figured it's long overdue. We're heading back to the 1800s in Scotland for a mystery that shook this place. Almost 175 years later, some folks say it's the most famous case in Scotland. So kick back, get yourself a wee cup of tea and let's dig into the story. Born on March 29th, 1835, Madeleine Smith was the oldest in a fairly wealthy family in Glasgow. Her dad, James, was an architect, and her mum, Janet, well, she was the daughter of a big deal architect also. They lived in Glasgow at 7 Blythswood Square. Now I myself, I've spent many a morning walking up that hill to that square. It's still gorgeous and an affluent part of Glasgow. Winding back the clock to her formative years, Madeleine immersed herself in the intricacies of Victorian society. During her teenage years, she attended Mrs. Alan Gordon's Academy for Young Ladies, where she acquired the finesse of proper manners, piano, dance, and the delicate art of seamlessly blending into high society. Returning to Glasgow at the age of 18 in the summer of 1853, Madeleine brought with her the refined charm that she cultivated in this esteemed academy. Meanwhile, across the English Channel in the Channel Islands, in April of 1823, Pierre-Emile Longuelier entered the world to French parents. Operating a successful seed merchant business limited to French speakers, Emile's family sought to expand their reach to affluent English visitors. In pursuit of this goal, Emile was dispatched to apprentice in a seed business predominantly dealing with only English clients. In 1842, Sir Francis Mackenzie, a Scottish figure of influence, extended an enticing offer to Emile, inviting him to work on his Scottish estates. Demonstrating proficiency in English, Emile accepted the position in Edinburgh and then later relocated to Glasgow, assuming the role of a warehouse clerk. The exact moment when Emile first laid eyes on Madeleine remains unclear, but it is speculated to have occurred in the early months of 1855. He was into her. He liked what he saw, and so he asked a friend to hook them up. Madeleine, from a big shot family, met Emile, a warehouse clerk. Even though it wasn't the ideal match, they hit it off straight away. They started writing letters and they would arrange to meet up in the street or at stores. But when Madeleine's dad found out, well, he wasn't exactly cool with it. No daughter of mine will be dating a lowly warehouse worker. I mean, I get that. Back then, they got her educated and all that so that maybe she would marry into wealth. Madeleine, having feelings for Emile, reluctantly wrote him a letter breaking off their relationship. But Emile, well, he was having none of that. He kept writing to Madeleine, and their friend Mary Perry, well, she would help them by having sneaky meetings at her house. Madeleine was all in, and their secret relationship kept rolling. As time passed, Madeleine and Emile's love just got stronger. Despite keeping things all hush-hush from Madeleine's friends and family, they secretly got engaged. Emile hung on to all of Madeleine's letters, but he insisted that she burn the ones that he sent her. They kept meeting at Mary Perry's place and sometimes sneaked around at night at Madeleine's house whilst her parents were asleep. Meanwhile, Madeleine's parents, clueless about what was going on with Emile, were on the lookout for a potential suitor for her. They thought this guy, William Minnock, a rich merchant and neighbour, would be the perfect match. In September of 1856, William stayed with the Smiths at their summer house, and he and Madeleine spent a lot of time together. Madeleine figured, well, he'd be a more suitable match, certainly bring a better lifestyle than what Emile could offer. So come January of 1857, Madeleine and William officially got engaged. But, well, she was still secretly engaged to Emile. So in a letter she told Emile that the deal was off, claiming her feelings had changed. Pretty sneaky, right? She didn't spill the beans or tell him about William, but she asked Emile to return all the letters, saying that she would send someone to come and collect them. Emile, stubborn as ever, refused and said that he would show the letters to Madeleine's dad instead. So, panicking a wee bit, Madeleine wrote 2 more letters practically begging Emile not to tell her dad. In the second letter, she even asked to meet her in secret. So now it's February and March of 1857, and things are about to get sinister. During a supper with Miss Perry on February 17th, Emile mentioned to her that he had plans to meet Madeleine on the 19th. Now, it's not clear if they actually met that night, but Emile got hit with a nasty stomach bug. Luckily, he bounced back by the next morning. Meanwhile, February 21st, Madeleine hit up a local chemist and bought some arsenic, claiming that it was to kill a bunch of rats. She even signed the poison book. I hear you asking, poison book? So, aye. Back in 1815, the Poisons Act was passed by Parliament in response to a growing concern about the ease in which people could purchase dangerous poisons. So basically, you went to the local chemist and was like, "I'll have some of your best arsenic, please." And the store owner would need you to show some form of identification and then sign a register, which was called the poison book. Now, the reasons for this, it seems obvious, right? But what it really done was act as a deterrent. Because, let's face it, if you're out to buy poison, you're out for some killing, right? So most killers were like, maybe poisons are a bit too risky. Stabby stabby. Back then, arsenic would have been mixed with certain spices or even soot, so that the fatal poison would never be mixed up by mistake with things like flour, sugar or salt. That night, Emile sneaked out without telling his landlady or anyone where he was headed. When he got back early on February 22nd, he was in pretty bad shape. He was dealing with serious stomach pains that had him stuck in bed for 8 days. So fast forward to March 6th, Madeleine made another trip to the chemist, buying, you guessed it, more arsenic. Those rats, they are out of control. On the 9th of March, Emile had tea with Mary Perry. He spilled to Perry that he couldn't think straight after having coffee and chocolate from someone that he referred to as her. Perry figured out that he must have meant Madeleine. Emile then confessed his deep love for Madeleine, saying that he would actually forgive her even if she had poisoned him. Perry asked why Madeleine would do such a thing, and Emile replied by saying that maybe young Maddie just wanted him out of the picture. On the 17th of March, Madeleine and her family came back from a trip. The next day, Madeleine bought more arsenic. Then, on the 19th, Emile went on a weekend trip to Bridge of Allen, about 30 miles north of Glasgow, and about 2 minutes from where I'm standing right now. He unexpectedly returned the evening of March 22nd, claiming that he got a letter to call him back. He asked his landlady, Perry, for the front door key, saying that he would be out late, but he didn't tell her where he was going. Around midnight on the 23rd, the landlady heard a ruckus at the front door. She found Emile doubled up in pain. 10 hours later, Emile was dead. They found a letter from Madeleine in his pocket, and more of her letters turned up in his room and office in the next few days. Madeleine, though, played it totally cool and didn't say a word about his mysterious death, but the town was buzzing with gossip. Now, fast forward to March 26th. Madeleine's sister Janet woke up to find Maddie missing from their shared bed, their room, and the entire house. William Minnock, Madeleine's almost hubby, swung by the Smith home later that morning to see her, but the family and servants were all running around in a panic because, well, Madeleine was missing. William thought that she might be at the Smiths' summer house on the River Clyde, so he suggested that he and Madeleine's brother Jack, well, why don't they go and check it out and see if they can find her? The rest of the family stayed put just in case she returned home. So they hopped on the next train to Greenock from Glasgow and caught a steamboat to Helensburgh. So both William and Jack are on this boat, deep in conversation about where the hell Maddie could be, when suddenly William was like... Amid the crowd, they found Madeleine, just sitting there, chilling, looking out at the water. So she had boarded the boat in Glasgow and acted all cool, showing zero surprise when she saw the two of them sat down next to her. William gently asked why Madeleine had run off, causing such a fuss for her and her family and friends. She started to explain, but William hushed her up, saying, "There's too many ears around." Once they were in the privacy of the big summer house, William pressed her again about why she disappeared in the way she did. Madeleine spilled the beans that she was scared that her parents would flip out about what she had done. She promised to divulge more details later. Come March 31st, and based on a bunch of letters found at Emile's house, Madeleine got arrested. She gave a long statement to the police, saying that she hadn't seen Emile in 3 weeks before he died. She didn't deny that they were a romantic item, and they wrote lovey-dovey letters and secretly talked about marriage. She also admitted to buying arsenic 3 times in the past month. I mean, thanks to the poison book, she couldn't really hide the fact, especially because it was signed in her name. Madeleine told the cops that she was mixing the arsenic with water and using it on her arms and face, calling it a beauty trick that she picked up at school. She had lied to the chemist about it because she didn't want to say that she was putting it on her skin. She felt embarrassed. She swore that she never gave Emile any arsenic, or anything else for that matter. The case blew up in Scotland, so they moved the trial from Glasgow to Edinburgh. It kicked off on June 30th, 1857. Madeleine had a solid legal team, including big shot John Inglis, but court rules meant that she couldn't take the stand. She had to rely on her lawyers and her official statement. The courthouse was swarming with people eager to catch a glimpse of Madeleine, and the streets were packed every night as her carriage rolled back to the East Jail of Edinburgh. Newspapers spilled every detail of the trial, turning it into the hottest topic in Scotland. The prosecution wanted to show all of Madeleine's letters and Emile's papers as evidence. Madeleine's defence argued that her letters could be shown, but Emile's diary, well, that was strictly off limits and should be left out. The prosecution said that the diary should be revealed because it might show that Emile saw Madeleine right before he died. With Emile gone, however, the defence argued that the diary entries could not be questioned or properly cross-examined. The arguments were pretty strong on both sides, but the defence scored the win, keeping Emile's diary away from the jury. The trial dragged on for 9 days with lots of folks testifying, including Madeleine's sister Janet. But Janet, she couldn't remember Madeleine getting out of bed on that night on March 22nd. William Minnock, who had quickly backed out of marrying Madeleine, well, he also took the stand. So yeah, when this whole thing came about, Minnock was like, maybe we should take a break. It's not me, it's definitely you. The prosecution brought in witnesses to poke holes in Madeleine's story, but the defence fired back with experts talking about the cosmetic use of arsenic. The defence even had witnesses saying that Emile had been talking about trying to off himself before all this. Madeleine stayed super calm during the trial. She was skipping food and water, but she kept a little jar of smelling salts just in case she passed out. She only got uneasy when they read out some of her letters to Emile. The prosecution said Madeleine lied about the arsenic and claimed that Emile not giving back her letters was enough motive to commit the murder. But the defence pointed out that Emile got sick 2 days prior to Madeleine's first arsenic buy. The prosecution and defence threw down some heavy arguments, but since there was no proof that Madeleine and Emile actually saw each other just before his 3 bouts of sickness, well, it wasn't looking good for the prosecution. The jury only took 30 minutes to decide on July 9th the verdict: not proven. Now, not proven is a unique Scottish thing. It means that they didn't find Madeleine innocent, but that the prosecution, well, they didn't prove their case enough to prove guilt. Madeleine walked free that day and went back home. What really went down on the night of March 23rd, 1857 is still a mystery to this very day. People threw around tons of theories in the newspapers, but no one really knows. The Scotsman called Madeleine Smith either the most fortunate of criminals or the most unfortunate of women. In the wake of the scandal, Madeleine Smith's family found themselves compelled to abandon their lovely Glasgow residence and their picturesque summer villa Rowellan and Rue. Their journey took them to Bridgeavallen in central Scotland. Subsequently, in 1860, another relocation transpired, bringing them to Old Pullman. The weight of the entire ordeal took a toll on her father, who tragically passed away in Pullman in 1863 at the age of 55. Amidst these tumultuous years, a significant chapter unfolded in Madeleine's life. On July 4th, 1861, as she entered into matrimony with George Wardle, an artist renowned as William Morrissey's business manager. The union brought forth 2 children, a son named Thomas, born in 1864, and a daughter named Mary, affectionately called Kitten, who was born in 1863. In the ensuing period, Madeleine became immersed in the activities of the Fabian Society in London, where her organisational fervour made a notable impact. While operating under her new married name, her true identity was not universally recognised, but a select few were still privy to her dark past. The course of Madeleine's life took another turn after numerous years of marriage, as she and her husband parted ways in 1889. Seeking a fresh start, Madeleine relocated to the vibrant city of New York. Around 1916, she embarked on a second marriage, tying the knot with a guy called William A. Sheehy. This union endured until his passing in 1926, marking another chapter in the complex tapestry of Madeleine Smith's life. So the mystery of whatever happened to Madeleine Smith is still unsolved. Wherever and whenever Madeleine checked out, she took all the secrets about Emil's death to her grave. Thanks for joining me for today's video, folks. I hope you're all doing really well wherever you are in the world. Take care of yourselves, tell someone that you love them, and remember, no matter what, keep smiling.